it's your girl Cheryl Lynn, and you're watching Sweep the League on Alamo City Podcast Network.
Hey, this is George Iceman Gervin, and you're listening to Sweep the League.
What up, guys and girls? It is Sweep the League. Rudy Campos Jr. joining you here, and I'm wearing the baby blue colors, not of the Carolina Tar Heels, but of the Indiana State squad that got gypped. Should have been in the tournament. Shout out to Indiana State Sycamores. Basically, we were robbed of what they call Larry Nerd, Robbie Avila. So. We're going to get into some of that talk, but not really but we're going to get into some March Madness talk. There was some upsets last night. Oakland over Kentucky. We're going to have the man, the myth, the legend himself, Derek Gervin, with us today. Coach Gio's on vacation. Rock's on vacation again. They should be back on Monday. But let's bring in Derek because we got a lot of NCAA talk. And then also we're going to kind of go Flashback Friday because it is Flashback Friday. We're going to talk NCAA players who really didn't pan out in the NBA and who you thought maybe would have panned out in the NBA. So let's bring on Derek Gervin. Derek Gervin is coming on to the show right now. Mr. Gervin, what's going on, Derek?
Hey, how you doing there today, sir?
Good, man. Good. Tim Gonzalez is in here. It says, what's good, fellas? Of course, the Blue Devils and the Tar Heels suck, obviously.
Yeah.
I need to talk about Kentucky, which I'm going to give Derek the floor on the Kentucky part, obviously, because that was terrible. What's up, Mark? Why did I make a bracket only to be let down by Kentucky? Why do I make a bracket? I think pretty much all of America is wondering about what happened with Kentucky. We'll get into the Kentucky fiasco here in a minute, but Derek, I mean, we were robbed of Indiana State in the tournament with Robbie Avila, man. You of all people know that I'm probably one of the few guys to own a Larry Bird jersey, and it's massive. This is back when I was a really big guy, so thought I'd wear it today and show him out, man.
Did you see Kareem Abdul-Jabbar on his interview yesterday?
No, I did not.
What's the guy that comes on that used to play in the NFL that comes on, I can't think of his name right offhand, it comes on after Stephen A. Smith first take.
Is it Pat McAfee?
Yeah, McAfee had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar on the show yesterday. So it was he had his Indiana State jersey on and all of that. And it was sad not to see them make it, but at least he got some shine yesterday on television. So that was good.
Yeah, I mean, it's Robbie Avila. They said it was Larry Nerd. I don't know if I like that name, but I like
the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I thought that was even better. I thought that was kind of fitting. My mate, she looked at him. She said, "That's a big young man right there." And I said, "Yeah, that's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar." So, even though they didn't get chosen, I was glad to see him get some notoriety on ESPN.
Oh yeah, man. It's just these are the types of things that people do these years, man. It's you become an overnight sensation, and that's something that Robbie did. Shout out to Robbie Avila again. Shout out to Indiana State, man. I'm supporting the Larry Bird Indiana State jersey right here. We got some comments in here. Tim Gonzalez, Derek Gervin, can you explain to us about Oakland last night? Everybody's pissed off about Oakland, man. It's game day tonight for the boys, Duke and Vermont later on tonight. All right, I'm going to give you the floor, Derek, because obviously the Oakland and Kentucky game ruined about 98% of the brackets, 99% of the brackets. So what did you see in that game that Oakland just came out and played, man?
You know what it showed, Rudy? First of all, I want to say my brother, my second oldest brother, rest in peace. His name is Claude Gervin. He played for Oakland University. So I know a lot of people, when they saw the name, they mind probably right away went out to California. Mm-hmm. But as soon as I saw the name, I knew what it was about because I've been, me being a Detroiter. And where's Oakland? It is right there in the center. Basically, it's part of Detroit. So it was exciting for me. But what it proved to me, Rudy, on a serious note, was how the NIL, the name, image, and likeness, has affected college basketball. If you look at it now with Kentucky, Calipari is still a great coach, but the dynamics have changed. Now, Kentucky is a school where a lot of people go, it's a 1 year and gone type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so you had that going on with a lot of the big colleges, the big name schools. And what happens is it's allowed the other teams to catch up now, because a lot of these teams like Oakland, they stay together. These guys, they know each other, where to throw the ball, where you're going to be. They've had the opportunity to play together sometime 3 or 4 years, as opposed to these teams today like Kentucky that's only been together 1 year. Guys are already thinking about the NBA. So their focus is not the same as it would be for a team that's trying to get some notoriety that they've never really had. And if you look at it last night, Oakland came to play. They weren't afraid of Kentucky at all. We know Kentucky has some really good guard play, but a couple of those guys struggled last night. Mr. Shepard struggled. I believe he might have had 2 or 3 points, maybe 2 points.
Yeah.
And Dillingham didn't really play great. But if you look at it, their big men were getting punished inside. And then a lot of times they had opportunities to rebound the basketball. They didn't rebound it. It just showed it's parity now. With this NIL going on, the NIL, it's parity. And you got a lot of these teams that you've never heard of, but they get to play 3 or 4 years together, and that makes a complete team. And we saw that last night.
Yeah, Gio and I yesterday on Sweep the League, we talked about the NIL, and pretty much the entire show was the NIL. You and I were on a phone call earlier talking about NIL, and we both kind of agree, Gio and I, it's a good thing, but it's a bad thing for NIL. My biggest thing, and it goes mainly for college football, was the transfer portal, because now you can transfer and you don't have to wait a year. I mean, it's just automatic. So and I made the comment to Gio, said, so what, if you're going to give the transfer portal and it's instantaneously, they need to get rid of the red shirt in football. You can't be a not medically red shirt, but you just can't red shirt 1 year. You should be eligible to play every single year, even if you're going to play or not. That's kind of one thing I need to get rid of. But as far as NIL goes for basketball, you and I talked, man, if you're a 5-star recruit and you're going to Kentucky, where other 5-star, 4-star recruits are going, and Cal says, you know what, man, I'm only going to play you about 12, 13, 14 minutes because I have a lot of other 5-star guys that are going to be playing. I mean, I hate to say it like this, but, a lot of times some of these players these days are going to give Cal, the middle finger, basically, and say, hey, I can go somewhere else and get NIL money and play, 30 minutes that night.
Well, you see, a lot of people might disagree, and Mike Krzyzewski said that's not the reason he stepped away. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to question him and call him a liar, but I really believe that it has something to do with it. Other teams have caught up to the field, basically. It's no longer just the Connecticut's, the Kentucky's, the UCLA's, the teams that we're used to in the past, the North Carolinas. I had to give your team a shout out. So, those are days of the past. But the one negative I have about it, Rudy, is in a lot of situations, it teaches if things don't go right for you, you run. Yeah. You look for another situation as far as instead of trying to work it out. And that's the one negative side for me. I don't like that. I think sometimes guys have it in their head. If the coach doesn't treat them the way that they think they should be treated, then they want to run. And that's for me, that's the only negative about it. I know the money is, I'm hoping they can balance that out where it, affects a lot of the players, where all the players can get a little something. But for me, it's just the guys teaching them to run if things don't go their way.
Exactly. Let's get to some of these questions here. Now, Derek, you played for UTSA, considered a small school at the time. Right now, I mean, they are D1. They are, mid-major, I guess you can say about them, but I hate using that word. So Tim wants to know, what does Oakland need to do for the next round? It kind of actually goes into Mark's question. Does Oakland have the momentum to win in the next round? So Oakland going into the next round, they're playing against NC State. Let's not sugarcoat it. This is a very winnable game for Oakland against NC State. I mean, now, can I call it crazy, Derek, that it's very winnable for Oakland to beat NC State? And then if you have a Florida-Colorado against Marquette, the winner of that game, is it possible to maybe see Oakland go to the Elite Eight?
It's possible. The reason I give them a chance, the main reason I give them a chance against NC State is because I believe tomorrow would be NC State's 7th game in about 10 days. And we remember, they went 5 games in 5 nights. Yeah. And that didn't catch up to them yesterday. but at some point it's going to catch up to them. They have the big fella, the big lefty on North Carolina State, who's been putting his body in the guys and finishing. I'm just wondering, can they keep up with the pace of Oakland tomorrow? And then if Mr. Hulky is hitting that three again like he was. Hey, the man had his coming out party yesterday, man. You saw him stick the tongue out. You saw him basically doing it all yesterday. Yeah. So if he can come out with that same confidence, not overconfident, and they come out and play and try to figure out how they're going to deal with the big fella on the interior for North Carolina State, I give Oakland a really good chance. I say get up and down the floor and make North Carolina State use their legs, since they played so many games in a short amount of time. And I think it's going to be a really good game.
Yeah, I don't doubt Oakland has a chance against NC State. Mark's saying the same thing that you said, and I kind of am agreeing with, is the fatigue part. I mean, that's kind of the reason why these tournaments, these conference tournaments are grueling, because if you're one of those teams that has to run the table just to get in, because NC State was on the bubble. I mean, they weren't going to really get in unless they ran the table, which they did. So they ran the table, obviously, got into the tournament, 5 games in like 5 nights or however it is for the ACC tournament. It's going to catch up. If it doesn't catch up against Oakland, they're not beating the next team. There's no way. These guys have got to be tired.
Hey,
man.
Really, they might. I'm sorry, but the reason I say they might not win this one is because, just like you mentioned, the 5 games in 5 days, right? Mm-hmm. And that was playing in their conference, all the known schools. So now that they've gotten by those schools, you might have a tendency to take the foot off the pedal, so to say, and you could become a little overconfident. And that happens sometimes. You play a team like Oakland, and then you start looking ahead from instead of actually going out and play the game. And I think Oakland's going to have a very good game plan. I enjoyed hearing that coach talk yesterday. He's a very positive guy, and I really think he's going to have a good game plan, and I think they're going to give North Carolina State all they can handle.
Yeah, and don't forget it's not probably much of travel for, considering, but, not only did they play so many games and so many nights, but the travel for NC State. I mean, everybody knows if you're flying on a plane, however you get there, it does take its toll on you. These guys haven't seemed to have rested. Derek Gervin, Rudy Campos Jr., Sweep the League, all a part of the Alamo City Podcast Network. So, again, we're giving Oakland that opportunity to move on. Another kind of an upset that ended up happening was Duquesne over BYU, 11-6. My picks, the McNeese and the Drake, just didn't quite happen. That was terrible. But the Oregon Ducks ended up beating South Carolina. That was a game that I did end up picking. Nevada Dayton was a killer for me because I took Nevada and they were up 17 points at the end of the second half. Just to see Dayton go on a 17-0 run to pull out the win, 63-60, Derek. We had some great basketball last night, man.
The Flyers were flying. At no point did they quit. The Dayton Flyers, and I was happy to see that because our second leading scorer at UTSA, Ike Thornton. Ike is from Dayton. So I've been keeping up with the Dayton Flyers since the late 70s and early 80s. So to see them win, I thought it was good. And I also had something in connection with Nevada, because if you remember a few years ago, the Nevada coach was Eric Musselman. Yeah. And now Eric's in Arkansas. So I was familiar. I talked to Eric when he was at Nevada. So I had some stake in this game. But I tell you what, to see Dayton continue to fight, it proves that the game is not over until the clock says 0. And Dayton Flyers proved that, and they move on.
Exactly, man. And that's the thing. That's a good thing about March Madness is it's not a 5-game series, a 7-game series. It's one and done. Kind of like my bracket. My bracket was one and done pretty early. I think it's game 2 with Duquesne.
Hey, Rudy, don't feel bad because I heard a lot of people yesterday after the Kentucky game. They it just bust up their bracket. And I got to ask you this, and I just want people, what do y'all think about this? Should Kentucky even been a number 3 seed, though, Rudy? I'm not trying to take away anything from Oakland, but if you look at the way Kentucky's played this year, they were up and down. And had them a 3 seed says that you mean they're one of the top 12 teams in the country. I think they had a good team, but at no point did I think they were like a top 10, top 12 team. What do you think of that?
I agree because can we put it the obvious thing, Derek? Kentucky got a 3 because of the name Kentucky. I didn't bet at all this year feel like Kentucky was one of the top teams in the nation. You've got, two guys that are supposedly top 10 in the NBA draft, and Dillingham and Shepard, but I didn't buy Kentucky's hype all season long, just like I didn't buy the Kansas hype. I didn't buy a whole lot of hype. So the number 3 seed for Kentucky, let's just be real, it's because of the name across the chest. It was Kentucky, and that's why they got it. And good thing they got exposed by Oakland. I mean, it shows that, just because you're a powerhouse school doesn't necessarily mean you deserve the seeding that you get.
Well, I'm still cheering. We're going to have a few more upsets even today. So, March Madness, man, I love the NBA and I love the NBA playoffs, but I tell you, March Madness, that's exactly what it is. It's pure madness, and you don't want to really miss a game. I know some people, yourself, for instance, I believe you were watching 4 games at once.
Yeah, I had the YouTube TV. I had
It's that exciting, man, because you can't ever say basically that one team is going to – the only game I could say for sure today, okay, was Connecticut. I picked them to beat Stetson by 35, but we're talking about the champions. Other than that, I mean, anybody could be had, man. I still think Purdue's going to have a hard time. I still think Houston's going to have a hard time. I still think North Carolina's at some point going to have a hard time. It's no guaranteed wins, and that includes UConn this year.
Yeah, man, it's not a guarantee win. Even though I think UConn now with they should beat Stetson pretty heavily. Right now they're up 89-51. I don't see them having any issues when it comes to Northwestern, but the one team that I told you I picked Illinois to come out of that bracket, and I think that's the only team that's going to give UConn a lot of trouble. Chris Gonzalez, I was surprised Kentucky was a 3 seed. I figured they were a 7 or 8. See, a lot of people weren't buying into that Kentucky hype, putting them at number 3. I mean, you and I are not the only ones. A lot of fans out there were saying there's no reason for Kentucky to be a number 3 seed. That is just a name across the chest. Getting to you, Tim Gonzalez says he had him at a 4 or a 5 seed. Guess what? Kentucky's first game next year is against Duke in the State Farm Championship Classic in Atlanta. That's probably going to be a massive win for the Duke Blue Devils. I mean, I don't even think Kentucky has a really good recruiting class coming in. I haven't checked the latest ones. And yeah, Mark is right. Not to quote all sports here, but any team can beat any team on any given day. And that's why they play the games, Derek. Going over some more of the bracket, the North Carolina Michigan State second round game tomorrow. That's just a battle of old programs, man. Old school programs, Tar Heels, Spartans. That's going to be a good one. The Gonzaga Kansas game is considered, to me, it's actually probably one of the more appealing teams. Gonzaga was left for dead by all of America, including me. I had McNeese. I mean, of obvious years. So Gonzaga came back, playing the game and wanting to win. Kansas had a really hard time with Samford.
Oh boy, they tried to get that game away.
Is it safe to say that Gonzaga wins this game, or does Kansas actually pull it off and make it to the next round?
For me, it's Gonzaga. I think they were number 5. They were 5th seed this year, right? They were 5th seed. I'm sorry. And for me, Mark Few is one of my favorite coaches, Rudy, of all.
Yeah.
So my computer's acting up, but I'm all right.
You're fine, man. You're fine.
But Mark Few is one of my favorite coaches of all, and I believe in him. So I think they're going to have a good game plan. We know Kansas always brings it as well. So to me, I call this the battle of attrition. Who's going to be able to withstand all the ebbs and flows that are going to go in alone in this game? And it's going to be very intense. And I think Gonzaga has something to prove. We're so used to them being the number 1 or number 2 seed now.
Ah.
So this is like an off year. But when you're if you call it an off year, 5th seed, I have to give credit to Mark Few. And I'm going to go with Gonzaga. I think it's going to be a really close game. Going to go down to the last few possessions. But I'm going to take Gonzaga to win this game by 3 points.
I'm kind of there with you. I'm still not impressed by Kansas. Like I said, I wasn't impressed by Kansas all year. I wasn't impressed by Kentucky all year. Those two teams just didn't impress me at all. My pick, the Arizona Wildcats. They crushed Long Beach State 85-65. They've got Dayton next. We saw what Dayton did to Nevada, but there's no way that Arizona can be up 17 on Dayton and
No.
expect Dayton to make a run. I think they're going to pretty much solidify their spot going into the Sweet 16. Now, I mean, not the Sweet 16, but now the Elite Eight this weekend. I think it's going to be a North Carolina Arizona meetup in the West bracket. So that's kind of a safe to say. Tim was in here, Florida Atlantic Northwestern. That's March Madness in its own, man. I mean, that game, you called me at the end of that game right before overtime and said, "Did you see it?" I'm like, "Man, I didn't see the game. I was working, but what happened?" You said, "Man, the player from Florida Atlantic just basically dribbled out the clock, man."
The clock, they had like when they inbounded the ball, it was like 8 seconds left. So the coach didn't call a timeout. I don't think they had any more timeouts. But still, they didn't get into anything. The guy dribbles down the floor. He's acting like it's 20 seconds left. And then he goes through his legs a couple times, and he never made a move. And then he ends up shooting a jump shot and getting it blocked. And I told the young lady I'm with, I told her right then that that was ball game for Florida Atlantic. And it ended up costing them. And then as soon as the overtime starts, Northwestern scores the first 8 points.
Yeah.
So they got on the run. They hit some tough shots. A couple of them were really tough shots, especially the last one. The young man with the braids hit a really, really tough shot. And from that point on, Florida Atlantic self-destructed. They were in over their head in overtime, but they played well. They had an opportunity to win the game. But to me, they kind of froze up a little bit at the last play of the regulation, and it cost them.
Yeah, it did. I mean, right now, let's go over some of the scores real quick. This is Derek Irving, Rudy Campos Jr. Right now, you got Auburn over Yale by 2 points, 36-34. We've also got Florida over Colorado. That's a really good game going on right now. They've got Florida leading by 1 in the first half, 42-41. Of course, like I said, Duke and Vermont play later. Nebraska, Texas A&M play later. Houston, Longwood, Wisconsin, James Madison all play later today. What do we else got? We've got – there was another game going on here. I'm sorry, guys.
Rudy, can Yale continue to stay close against Auburn?
Yeah, I believe so. I really do believe so. I think Yale could keep it close. I mean, they're only down by 2. It's still first half. But Yale's, again, these are some of these teams that you just didn't expect to stick around. But again, I mean, this is NIL, Derek. So you can go out and buy the best team. But what did the United States of America learn when you go out and you put the best players assembled and you put them up against a team that has played together for a very long time in Argentina and won Indianapolis tournament? You saw what happens. Teamwork outplays, a team assembled, bought, or whatever every single day of the week.
It's different today. Back in the day when, we still hear people talk about the dream team and all that stuff and how, this times have changed then. Now you got way more competitive teams overseas. And a lot of them, like you said, they've been together for years. If I got a team that's been playing together and they grew up together and everyone knows everyone else's tendencies on the team, I'll put that team up any day against a team of all-stars that you just put together and they don't really know each other and they're not used to playing together. I'm going to take the team that knows each other, knows where guys should be defensively and knows where they should be offensively. And that's the team I'll take over a bunch of all-stars. I believe these guys are fundamental. And the reason I brought up Yale, Rudy, it kind of reminds me of all the years that Princeton competed. You know about the great Pete Carril. And what kept them in the game all the time is they were fundamentally sound. They weren't going to turn the ball over a lot of times. They ran their sets. They rarely got outside of themselves. And when you play that way, your turnovers are limited, and it's going to keep you in the ball game against some of the best teams around.
Yeah, the Princeton offense, man. Backdoor cuts. That's pretty much all Pete Carril ran, and you saw it as successful. Hell, the year after they beat UCLA in the tournament, the very first game North Carolina played at Madison Square Garden, Roy Williams had him running the Princeton offense. It was all backdoor cuts, and I mean, it's
It,
an
ma-
offense that's
it makes you defend the entire 30 seconds or whatever it is. What's the shot clock now? Is it now?
I think it's
The
30
college,
seconds.
30, yeah. So it makes you defend the entire time. You cannot go to sleep. And you know who kind of stole that? They never mention it. But what team in the NBA kind of stole that mentality, Rudy? Golden State Warriors.
Was it Golden State?
Yeah, the back cuts and all that.
Oh, you're right. You're right. I'm starting to think about that. Yeah, you are right.
Yeah, people never talk about it.
No,
but they give Steve Kerr and all those guys credit. But you got to give Pete Carrillo some credit because Steph was perfect for that style of play. And then of course, you got a small Draymond playing basically the point guard.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Princeton, those schools back in the day, or Yale or Colgate, those kind of schools. They play very intelligent basketball. And a lot of times when you think they're going to get blown out, they find a way to stay in the game.
Yeah, it's a simple offense, man, is all it is. It's just basic offense. It's something that I wish we would see a lot of, younger teams, high schoolers, even in the middle school, just start running, just basic offenses, man, especially with no shot clock. You have to get your guys to defend, and that's something that I've always felt we missing from today's game. This is Derek Gervin, Rudy Campos Jr. We are talking NCAA basketball. We're also going to get into some players later because there's a lot of players that played in the tournament. There's a lot of players that played NCAA basketball where you sat back and thought, okay, this guy's going to be a hell of an NBA player. Get to the NBA and it's kind of like a dud, man. It happens all the time. It's a reason why, what is it, Derek? 0.6 or 0.06% of basketball players actually make it to the league. I mean, I know you probably get that a lot when it comes to coaching kids, how they feel like I'm
honest with them, Rudy. I tell them, man, I said, y'all know it's only been 5,000 players all time that's ever made it to the NBA. So that's why I don't even try. Like, I got a game tonight, 6:45, some 9th to 10th graders combined team. I don't even talk about the pros, man. I don't even talk about college. I talk about them just getting better between Friday and Saturday and then letting the chips fall where they may. We put too much pressure on these young people today, and I think that's why you see some of the fights that we have in some of these games. They've made it like it's a life or death thing. It's still a game. But when you're playing AAU basketball, high school basketball, those are memories that you should be taking, positive memories. So I'm hoping that a lot of the fans, the parents realize what they're doing. Don't put too much pressure on the kids. Let them enjoy the experience. Some of those kids might not even want to play college basketball. They just might be playing in high school to see, just to take that as far as they can and enjoy the camaraderie of being around some friends. So, yeah, don't take it that serious. It's not the NBA. Just try to get better one day at a time.
Exactly. Hey, right words from Derek Gervin for all you guys playing out there, all the AAU coaches. Then I think Gio's in here. Those same AAU kids attacked Cam Newton. I did see that video a while back. That was terrible, man. It's getting too serious. On the flip side here, we're going to take a quick commercial break. Derek Gervin, Rudy Campos Jr. This is Sweep the League. We'll be right back here in just a little bit.
Locked on Spurs is your daily Spurs podcast, hosted by Jeff Garcia, the lead Spurs writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio. Jeff has a healthy plethora of guests all the time on the Locked on Spurs podcast. You can also follow Jeff on Threads at Jeff G Ken's 5 SA. You can also follow Jeff on Twitter at Jeff G Spurs Zone. So make sure you go ahead and give Jeff a follow not only on Threads and Twitter, but also on YouTube at youtube.com/@LockedOnSpurs. This is where you're going to be able to find the replay of the Locked on Spurs podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share.
Yes, Jeff Garcia, Locked on Spurs, part of the Locked on Network. Jeff does a fantastic job covering your San Antonio Spurs. All the Spurs stuff, all the Spurs news, all the Spurs takes you need. Follow Jeff Garcia, Locked on Spurs. So, we've talked NCAA March Madness. It is March Madness for a reason. The Yale game in Auburn's up by 7 now at the half. I mean, can Yale come back? Obviously, Yale can make a comeback. I mean, it is the tournament. We've seen crazier stuff happen before. Clemson ended up being New Mexico. I had New Mexico winning, and man, Clemson just demolished New Mexico by 21 there. So, needless to say, man, March Madness is the good thing. But one thing about March Madness that produces a lot of, Derek, it produces a lot of players that you feel are just taking that next step into the league. I'm going to name off a few guys. If you got a couple of guys you want to name off, I'm gonna leave my my North Carolina fandom to the side and say, I was a big believer of Joseph Forte, obviously, but little Joe didn't quite pan out.
I was going to mention that name. You know, you love Joseph Forte.
Little Joseph Forte, I think he was probably drafted. I don't know if it was the wrong team with the Celtics, but I don't know. It just didn't pan out. I think it was before his time. He was a shooting guard in a point guard's body. So I think he was they tried to make him play point guard. It just wasn't going to pan out for him. Well, a couple of guys that I've had. One guy that stands out in particular, and again, he was a 2-time NBA All-Star. So nonetheless, he was actually, he was a great player in the league. And I use great very loosely, but out of Kansas, man, Danny Manning is one guy that comes to mind who I thought, man, Manning's going to come in and probably want to be one of those guys that's just night in and night out, going to have, something to say when it comes to play team after team. But Danny Manning's one guy that comes to my mind.
They got an article that says Derek Gervin leads the Nets over the Clippers. And in that article, they talk, I got to guard Danny Manning's son. Mm-hmm. And I always thought, Danny's dad was down here with the Spurs, Ed Manning. Mm-hmm. I thought coming out that my only question for Danny when he came out was his jump shot. Yeah, I always thought he was a decent shooter. I'll say from 12 to 15 foot range. But if you look at it, Rudy, I'm with you because Danny, we talked about Ben Simmons, right? Being next Magic Johnson. Danny Manning also had the same type of makeup, could handle the ball, could do it all basically. And so that's a good pick for you. For me, before you steal mine, the easiest one, as you know, is the guy from Gonzaga by the name of Mr. Morrison. Yeah. I honestly thought when I watched him in college, and I honestly thought I saw Larry Bird Jr. Mm-hmm. I mean that sincerely. The people that don't know, I'm a huge Rudy knows. I'm a huge Larry Bird fan, and he's the hardest guy I ever had to guard. I saw some of those same similarities in Adam Morrison, but we know it didn't pan out. But I just had superstar written all over him. I thought when he came into the league, he was going to be mature. He was going to be ready right off the bat, and it just showed how good the NBA really is.
Yeah, man. Adam Morrison, just, jump shooter, can spread the floor, can get to the basket. Brilliant college career. I mean, just didn't pan out when he was drafted by the Bobcats. And I mean, I'm going to keep the train going, man. And when I say keep the train going, another guy out of LaSalle who I figured, 20 points a game,
Simmons.
11. I think he averaged 10 points in his career. 10 rebounds in his career, over 24 points a game. The L train, Lionel Simmons, man. I figured there's no way this guy cannot have a brilliant NBA career, but nonetheless, he only averaged 12.8 points, 4.5 rebounds, wasn't all NBA first team rookie, but another player that to me just didn't pan out very well.
A really good player. He's had a good NBA career, but yeah, you saw stardom in him, and so did I. I thought he was going to be ready, and that name, the L Train, I just said, yeah, this guy's going to be a superstar. Hey, Rudy, I'm going to go back. I don't know. I know some of y'all, you're younger than me. There was a guy come out of LSU by the name of John Williams.
I remember John Williams, yeah.
John was 6'8", really big. I would say probably 240, 6'8", 240.
Yeah.
Point guard skills. And he's another guy they were calling Magic Johnson, but with a power forward body. And so I thought when John came to the NBA, I thought he was actually going to be really, really, really good. I said the guy can do some of everything, but his career wasn't even a decent NBA career. He just got there and he found out guys were just as strong as he was. They can handle the ball just as well. And it was just a different time. He was probably one of the biggest surprises for me all time because I had some really high expectations of him. But those of you that don't know who he is, look him up and check out YouTube. John Williams from LSU. That would be one of my biggest surprises up there with Adam Morrison.
Yeah, and we're not gonna go over like the Len Bias stuff or anything because that's just kind of it's a travesty. So it's kind of hard to go over that. Tim Gonzalez is Greg Oden. Now for Greg Oden, Derek, it's kind of weird. I knew how dominant he was in high school. I followed him in high school, and in Ohio State, he was a dominant big man. But you could tell in Ohio State that the NBA career wasn't going to be a brilliant NBA career. That was my take because I believe at the time, wasn't he playing with Mike Conley at the time?
Yep.
So I think Conley was a better player on the team, but for Oden, it just wasn't the dominant collegiate career.
No hands.
Exactly. That you would expect to say, okay, transition. The only reason why he got drafted that high was because of his height.
I'll say the reason I thought at the time, what the people were looking at when they looked at Greg Oden? You go to the Boston Celtics. Who's their most known player other than Larry Bird all time with all the 11 championships? Bill Russell. Mm-hmm. And that's what they were touting Oden to be the next Bill Russell. He was very limited, kind of like Rudy Gobert today. Yeah. Very limited offensively. But defensively, you just thought he could do some of everything. But Greg, I know the injuries kind of set him back, and he never was able to go out and fulfill some of the dreams that people had for him. And some of a lot of scouts thought very highly of him, but he wasn't able to make it. I think injuries were part of it, but even without the injuries, if you look at it, Rudy, I didn't have him projected to have a better career than my friend with the Nets, Sam Bowie. Yeah. I had Greg. I didn't see Greg being the Bill Russell that they were talking about. Rudy, can I name one last person? This guy I can't leave out.
This whole segment is naming players for him.
This guy became a musician, as you know, in the jazz world. Wayman, man. I played against Wayman.
That was my next guy.
Man, I played against Wayman in college my sophomore year. And I remember the score. The score was 112 Oklahoma, 72 UTSA. And Wayman had 61 points. Mm-hmm. And if you remember, he as a freshman, I was saying, man, I haven't seen anybody. Maybe I had to go back to the Kareem and Bill Walton days. I'm telling you, when I saw Wayman Tisdale the first time, I threw my hands, man. I said, oh, my God. So that, for me, that's the biggest surprise of all. He did have a good career in the NBA, but I thought that Wayman Tisdale will be talked about today in the same breath as the Jordans, the Magics, those guys, and that didn't pan out. But that's, for me, that's my number one, Wayman Tisdale. Rest in peace.
Yeah, man. Actually, Wayman was the guy I was going to bring up next. He was one of the guys that I thought, man, this guy's going to pan out very, very well into the NBA, make that transition, but it just didn't pan out to him.
I didn't think anyone on the planet could stop him, and he's left-handed.
Yeah.
I didn't think there was a guy on this earth that could deal with Wayman Tisdale. That's how high I held him, man. I mean, up here. All the players I've ever watched in NBA history, I thought he would be a top 10 player.
Yeah, me too. I would say that I didn't know if he'd be top 10 for me, but I figured, because you played against him, you know him a lot better than I did. But for me, I figured he would have been a force to be reckoned with when it came to the NBA. Tim Gonzalez says Jahlil. I'm assuming he's meeting Jahlil Okafor. For Jahlil Okafor, it's kind of one of those low post presence, had the good mid range, but he was in that transitional period where the league started to get quicker, and you have to have a quicker big man. So the guys like Oden and Okafor and these guys, the Tim Duncan-esque type players where they were in the post, the Patrick Ewing guys in the post, just they weren't going to pan out in the NBA anymore. And that's where I think Okafor fell a little short. He was a little late to the party, basically, is what it was for Jahlil Okafor.
Yeah, and they questioned his work ethic at some point. That they didn't say he didn't bring it every night. Kind of like they questioned Zion's motor. Sometimes they say Jahlil didn't bring it. I thought he played hard. From what I saw, he looked like to me he played hard all the time. He might have not got the best results every night playing against some studs in the league, but I thought he was a really good player. And I still today, I would never, when you talk about Greg Oden or Kwame Brown and guys like that, I would never put Jahlil Okafor in that conversation.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think Jaleel was just a little bit too late to the party. One other guy, man, and again, it was kind of hand in hand for me. One guy that was drafted who I kind of thought maybe he would maybe make it into the NBA was Bo Kimball. Bo Kimball was another guy who I thought, okay, right next to Hank Gathers, rest in peace, Hank Gathers. But Bo Kimball was, a part of that fast break, fast motion offense that just ran up and down the floor. And I thought, he's going to bring a different style of basketball to the NBA when he gets into the league. Again, it just never really panned out for Bo Kimball, man, at all.
I thought Bo would be more like your guy down here in San Antonio. I didn't think he was going to make his living on the offensive end in the NBA. Mm-hmm. I thought Bo would be more like an Alvin Robertson.
Yeah.
And that's how, he got that same mentality, that toughness of Vernon Maxwell, just a guy you're not going to push around and it's going to be there every time you turn around. Well, defensively, he's going to be right there in your face. That's how I pictured Bo Kimball. But I did picture him having a very good NBA career. So I'm with you on that. I just didn't think he would be a guy that would be averaging 20 points a night.
Yeah.
But I thought he would be on several all defensive teams. And that's where I saw Bo Kimball when I watched him play at Marymount.
Yeah, man, there's a lot of guys we've seen. I'll remember all the kids practicing the Toby Bailey backwards dunk in their backyard.
Toby Bailey, UCLA Broom.
That, what's funny, Derek? That whole UCLA era. I mean, you figured maybe Toby could have a little bit of a career. You figured Ed O'Bannon was going to come in and be, a great player. Tyus Edney, these guys, were like, oh yeah, they're going to have a good career. Reminds me of the Arizona teams with Miles Simon,
Bibby,
Bibby
and all those guys. Yeah,
Bibby had a great career, but what it could have been, I think it could have been a lot better. But those teams in that era, man, a lot of those players they were all hype in the NCAA, in my opinion.
I agree. Arizona had a big fella back then. I can't remember his name, about 6'10". That they were talking about was really touting back then, but he didn't live up to the hype either. So, yeah, I'm with you. When it comes to the UCLAs and Arizonas, you get no argument here.
Yeah, and that's what's funny is like March Madness makes some of these guys God-level NBA type players.
Oh, Sean Rooks.
Sean Rooks. I remember Sean Rooks.
Just how big he was, man. His girth. I thought this guy was going to take up a lot of space, and I just thought he was going to be a much better player than he was. But I was wrong on that one. But I will say he's a guy that played hard every time he touched the floor.
Yeah, and one position I loved to play, and I played a lot growing up. So, the guys that I used to love watching them in the NCAA, and I thought, man, I can't wait to see them in the pros. I'm going to name them off here. I was a big Mateen Cleaves fan from MSU. I was also Khalid Al-Amin. I was a big fan of his. I'm going to give you another couple of guys. And the last guy I'm going to name, you're going to be like, probably so. Another guy that I like following was Adonis Jordan out of Kansas. Rex Walters was his running mate at the time. But one guy who I thought, perfect. He's going to bring the new style of basketball to the NBA was one Sham God, man.
Oh boy! Did you see Wemby do his move? Who was that? They play when Wemby did the Sham guy.
Yes, man.
They never even talked about it, man. Yeah, the 7-footer doing the Sham guy. Yeah, I thought the young man too. But if you look at it today, all the players today, they still have a lot of respect for Sham guy. Mm-hmm. They talk about how some of them stole his move. And I thought when he got to the pros, he was going to kind of bring that New York style, and kind of like a Pearl Washington, but with more strength and all that, and a little more athleticism. Well, actually, a lot more athleticism. But I thought he was going to have a really good career as well.
Yeah, Sham God. I mean, then you go into guys like Katino Mobley with his run with Rhode Island. I mean, there was a lot of great players that played in the NCAA tournament in the NCAA period that you always thought, man, they could really make it in the NBA. I don't know if you have any other ones. I mean, we can do it.
I'll tell you one more that I thought was going to be really, really good, all-star level, Matt Harpring.
Oh, yeah, Harpring out of Georgia Tech.
Yeah, I thought, because you see how well Keith Van Horn played. Mm-hmm. I thought for me, I had Matt Harpring being over Keith Van Horn. I just thought he could do it all, man. The guy could jump out the gym. He could shoot the ball. He could put the ball on the floor. That was a surprise for me that he didn't reach, I would say, like deadlift strength level. And which, as you know, is not a bad level at all.
Yeah.
So that's where I had Matt Harpring. I thought he would be an all-star. I was surprised when he didn't become an all-star.
Yeah, and Tim's in here. I can't remember the player who played at Kansas in the early 90s. He was a big man, Spurs draft in the first round. He was 7 foot. That wasn't Dwayne Shintzes. He was in Florida.
Oh, Mr. What did he wear? What do you call it? The mullet.
The mullet. That was Dwayne Shintzes, but he was from Florida. I don't think he was from Kansas.
Florida, yeah. So Kansas, yeah, he must be talking about Shintzes. Played at Kansas in the early 90s. I know he's not talking about Greg Dreiling.
I don't know if it was Greg Dreiling.
I hope he's not talking about Greg Dreiling because but if the Spurs drafted him, then it sounds like it was Shintzes. Because, I played against Dwayne Shintzes. His first trip to San Antonio, him and Sean Elliott were here. And so I got to play against them in a summer league game over at the YMCA over off Rosedale, off Ruiz and General McMullen.
Westside YMCA. Man, I live down the street from there.
That's where that's my first time meeting Sean Elliott and Dwayne Shintzes. We played against them in there. And so maybe he's talking about Dwayne. But, yeah, we know Dwayne didn't have a great career. I don't even think he had a better career than a legend in San Antonio by the name of Gilbert Salinas.
No, I don't think Dwayne Shintzes really played much of any at all. I mean, I know he wasn't with the Spurs very long, but a couple of the guys, his top picks that never panned out, in my opinion. And I guess they panned out, but they didn't pan out as well as they should have been. You mentioned one of them, Keith Van Horn out of Utah. Again, I had high hopes for Keith Van Horn coming out of Utah. I mentioned this guy because I've always said he's the greatest, if not if not the greatest college basketball players that I've seen, and that was Christian Laettner. Mm-hmm. Again, a guy that probably should have had, a huge, massive career in the NBA, but was still behind guys like Shaq and Alonzo Mourning at the time. There's so many guys that were drafted in the top 3 that just never really panned out. We can keep going. Ben Simmons is another one. The head scratcher of all head scratchers, why Michael Olowokandi went number 1 from Pacific. Oh, I don't know what LA thought they saw in Olowokandi. I've never to this day could figure out what they saw in Olowokandi. I could have swore he probably had some kind of dark secrets on somebody in the Clippers fan.
Oh yeah, because to me, I never saw that. He's the Jamarcus Russell of the NBA. There was no point in his career that I was very high on him. I remember the first time I watched him play, I was like, this guy doesn't play hard all the time. And I know he had the body and all that, but if you even look at his body, Rudy, was he even really in shape? No, I don't think he was that committed to the game. I think sometimes you have players, and I'll be honest about it. You have players that want to play in the NBA for the riches, and then you have those that actually want to make their legacy. They want to leave a name in the game. But you have a lot of guys that just want. If you look at Ben Simmons, I hate to say it, but I really believe Ben is playing more for the fame, the notoriety, than the actual on the basketball court. I think he likes the lifestyle off the floor, getting to hang with the Kardashians or whoever it may be. And I think that's what's more important to him, going to fashion shows. And I'm just being honest. I think sometimes guys make when you have those silk sheets, you heard what Marvin Hagler said about how hard it can be to get up and run when you're sleeping and, they have silk sheets and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's Ben. If you look at Ben, I think ever since Rudy, did he act like he was very upset to you when the situation happened when he was playing and passed the ball off against Trae Young?
It shows he didn't care.
He didn't even really act like it really bothered him. I mean, he started saying that he was having some mental issues and this and that, but Ben just looked like Ben was still going out doing his thing. He was still coming to the games wearing his shorts, his leather outfits, and all of that. To me, that was more of his legacy, what he wanted to be known for, as opposed to actually been known for his basketball gifts.
Yeah, and I've been making it very clear, and I'm not saying it. I am saying it negatively, but I do really, I guess I mean it in a very positive way. He just needs to be out of the league. I don't think
he's still in. What about his agent, man? He's got I don't know whose agent was better, his or Keith Van Horn's.
That or Chandler Parsons' agent.
Chandler.
I mean, Ben Simmons. I mean, the guy has taken so much money. At least Kirk Cousins plays in the NFL from time to time. So I mean, but Ben Simmons in the league, man, that's just very,
Benz
very.
has made a lot of money, man.
I know for all hype,
Wow.
Derek, for all
And
hype.
he's only played how many games in his career?
Shoot, has he hasn't even played a full season, has he?
No,
In his career. I
no.
mean, and we're griping about Kawhi Leonard half the
That's how
time.
I remember. It was like 50 something games or 57 games. It was something crazy.
Oh my God. Well, we got one more commercial break here. When we come back, we'll be talking more NCAA hoops. We'll go into Flashback Friday as well with Derek Irvin. It's Derek Irvin, Rudy Campos Jr., Sweep the League, all a part of the Alamo City Podcast Network. We'll be right back.
MCS General Contracting, more than 30 years of combined experience in concrete placement. They are the best in the business, honest pricing, high quality work. They get going on house foundations, driveways, concrete patio decks. If you want to extend the deck, extend the driveway. If you're a business and you need to put together a slab, a parking lot, or other concrete placement services or sidewalks, reach out to MCS General Contracting at 210-774-9155. They're confident in their skills, so give Chris Leha over at MCS General Contracting a call at 210-774-9155. And thank you for being a sponsor of this show.
Yeah, shout out to Chris Leha, MCS General Contracting, sponsoring the Alamo City Podcast Network. Appreciate everything you do, Derek Irvin, Rudy Campos Jr. So we talk a lot about, NCAA tournament. We dipped into the vault, man. We talked about a bunch of guys who we figured would be making it in the NBA. I mean, we failed to mention, the greatness of when Joseph Forte, he was mentioned, but I will attest I'm the only guy to own a Forte jersey in San Antonio, both his collegiate and his first NBA jersey. I'm actually trying to get his DeMatha jersey, but I can't figure out how to get it from anybody.
Rudy, do you put him over guys like Shammond Williams? What's the little Ty? What's the little Ty Lawson? Those guys at North Carolina.
For me, yeah, I do.
But I do too. It's because sometimes when you hear them talk about the greats from North Carolina, and they talk about the Vince Carters or the Brad Dohertys or whoever they may be, you don't usually hear Joseph Forte's name, and I think he's one of the best players that's played at North Carolina.
I mean, to me, he's one of the best all times in North Carolina history. And you're right. You don't get and the reason why you don't get, him in there with the Carters and the Jordans and the Worthies and stuff is not because he didn't have a successful college career. It's because he didn't have a successful NBA career. Everybody thinks about, well, okay, he had a great college career, but did he do anything in the NBA? Obviously not. He didn't have a great NBA
But
career.
I don't even think they gave him the notoriety he deserved at North Carolina because he wasn't a flashy player.
Yeah.
He was just a guy that brought his lunch pail. He came to work every day, but because he wasn't flashy, they didn't give him the recognition I thought he deserved. I thought he was a really good player. I mean, hell, you know who Joe Forte is. His name is going to be in the North Carolina talk forever. And I just think maybe because he wasn't as flashy, they didn't give him the respect that he deserved.
Yeah, it's a tremendous failure, I think, on a lot of Carolina not players, but a lot of Carolina fandom that don't give Forte the roses that he deserves, man. Excuse me, but let's see. New Braunfels autographs, and New Braunfels might get it for you, Rudy Campos. I actually have Forte rookie cards with autographs on them, so I'm kind of good on Forte autographs. I think the one thing I would love to do is have him on the show with us one day. I probably would not talk at all for a while. I'd probably let Derek and Gia do most of it because I kind of just be like this with my hands, like I'm really talking to Joseph Forte here. Nonetheless, he's one of the guys that I think I would probably be. Him and Mark Price is another one. I would kind of be like,
yeah, I'm Mark Price. The people need to look up Mark Price and really find out what a point guard is, a scoring point. Mark Price epitomizes today's game. I think he would be perfect for today's game. He could score and he could drop that ball off. You're talking, what he reminds me of? Caitlin Clark led in points and assists for the NCAA, right?
Yeah.
I could see Mark Price I wouldn't say he would lead the league in scoring, but he was one of those guys that could get you 25 a night and 10, 11 assists a night. And people need to go look up Mark Price.
Mark Price is one of the few guys that would translate not even well. He would dominate today's league. I mean, he would be really unstoppable in today's league, especially with the type of shooters we have now. Imagine Mark being the point guard for Steph and Clay and just letting them roam around, getting the ball right where they need to be in their wheelhouse.
That wouldn't be fair because you're talking about three of the greatest shooters that ever lived.
My God, man, my mind's wandering a whole lot off the beaten path here. But yeah, man, point guard university, man. Mark Price, Kenny Anderson, who else? Travis Bass was there.
Greg Neal.
Greg Neal's another point guard out of Georgia Tech. That was point guard university for a while. One guy, I don't know why, Derek, but I don't know why I always figured Randolph Childress would have been.
Oh man,
Good
I don't know. I thought Randolph was going to be an excellent pro.
Yes,
that's another guy. Yeah, I thought him and I actually thought he was going to be a better player than Hersey Hawkins.
Yeah,
I thought Randolph Childress, man, as you know, he could fill it up.
Yeah,
and he kind of reminded me a little bit of my brother somewhat as far as just putting that ball in the basket. I mean, the guy was really silky smooth to me. And I thought he was, he also could defend. Mm-hmm. I thought he was going to be an all-star in the NBA.
Yeah, I figured his game would have translated so well to the NBA, and just another guy that didn't. I don't know if it was just the wrong place, wrong time, just maybe different era. I have no idea why Randolph didn't have that type of career that a lot of us expected.
Rudy, in the NBA, sometimes it's just getting with the right situation. It's not that you're not that player. It's just that the team you play with didn't allow you to play that type of style that you like. It's just look at it. Steph is a perfect example. There's not every team in the league that would allow Steph Curry to be Steph Curry like Mark Jackson allowed him. A lot of teams wouldn't be letting him put up the 30-foot shots and that kind of stuff. It's just getting to the right situation. And I didn't think Randolph got the opportunity that he really deserved.
So is that a situation where we look at Ben Simmons and say, is there a spot for him anywhere in the league, a certain team that could benefit him? Because I don't find any
team for Ben, man. Ben just got to want it, man. That's not a team. I wouldn't even wish that on a team. If you remember, I said Steve Nash was going to be the guy that was going to be the popular one for the Tums commercials. Mm-hmm. And part of that was because he had James Harden and Ben Simmons. I'm not even talking about Kyrie and KD, just James Harden and Ben Simmons. Yeah. So for Bill, I don't think this. That's not fair for any coach to have to take on what they have to deal with Ben. Man, I don't think Ben's all bought in to want to be an NBA star.
Yeah, there's no team out there that I can see Ben Simmons going to that's going to revitalize his career. I don't see it happening anywhere for Ben Simmons at all, man. Gio and I talked yesterday, and I want to get your opinion on this here. So I was pretty upset. I'm still on the rant about the whole Pete Rose, not in the Hall of Fame thing because of betting. Well, it comes out Ohtani has this whole betting thing going on, which, again, it's not betting. His translator, bet money, or I don't know the story. We still haven't got the story completely. But if it comes out that Shohei Ohtani is gambling, does that just kind of make you think, okay, they need to put Pete in the Hall of Fame? Or if they say, it's okay, Ohtani, here's a slap on the wrist, Pete's not still going in, that just kind of screws everything up in the game of baseball.
Man, first, it was a sad situation. It's already been two different stories. One story was that Shohei had signed off on some of the checks, I guess, that were sent, $2 $500,000 checks that the young man, the interpreter, had sent in to pay. Yeah. And so there was like Shohei knew something about it. And then, of course, they come and cleaned it up and said that he didn't have anything to do with it. Of course, the translator, for me, I think there's a lot more to the story that we're going to hear as the days go by. But anyway, man, I think Pete Rose belongs in the Hall of Fame anyway. I know they talk about this stuff. He said he never bet on baseball, right?
Well, that's what he says.
Okay, but at this point, I mean, whether he did or not, Rudy, you still, when you talk about the Hall of Fame is supposed to be about your play. Yeah. And if you talk about play, I mean, Pete has how many? 4,300 and some hits? Yeah. 4,356 or something crazy like that. Mm-hmm. If you're just asking me as a baseball player, yes, he belongs in the Hall of Fame. And I've gotten softer as I gotten older. I also think Barry Bonds and Mark McGwire belong in the Hall of Fame. So, some people might not agree with me, but that's just my opinion. I think Barry Bonds, steroids or no steroids, I think he was still going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Mark McGwire, he might not hit the 60-something home runs, but he was still going to be like a guy hitting 40-something home runs a year. And I think they belong in the Hall of Fame. So, yes, I think Pete belongs in there, and we'll find out more about Shohei. But I would hate to see him tarnish his career to be involved in something like this.
Yeah.
$4.5 million. That's a lot of money.
It is. And that's what I was telling Gio. Here's my part. I look at it. $4.5 million is what it was, and he paid that $4.5 million for his translator. And then they said that the translator said, "Well, no, it was because of theft. He stole from Ohtani." How the hell? If I'm going to steal $4.5 million from you, Derek, supposedly, but you're going to pay my debt of $4.5 million. That doesn't sound right at all. Why are you going to pay for something for me if I did you wrong?
First of all, why would you even have my account information?
Well, yeah, that's the biggest thing, I guess.
I mean, it's not his wife or anything. That's his translator, his friend. So this is a sticky situation, man. And it's sad because right now, who's the face of Major League Baseball? It's Shohei Ohtani. The guy has done some things that Babe Ruth and others couldn't do.
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping he was smarter than this, man. Don't this would be a terrible way to tarnish what could possibly be one of the best, if not the best, major league career that we've ever seen.
I know that's terrible. But again, if it does come out that he did bet on baseball or whatever, then I mean, honestly, he's got to go. If you're not going to reinstate Pete to where he gets into the Hall of Fame, then you've got to ban Shohei. As shitty as that is, you have to ban Shohei Ohtani because you cannot go off of, well, we're going to remember Pete for this, but we're going to put a slap on the wrist for Shohei. It doesn't really work like that, man. It can't. And you're right about Barry Bonds. I'm 100%. Barry was the most feared hitter in baseball, steroids or not. I mean, he was the most feared hitter. He was still batting, tremendous numbers in Pittsburgh before he got to San Francisco.
He did it all. He stole bases. The guy could field. I mean, what couldn't he do? And the steroids didn't bring all that out. Your natural gifts are your natural gifts. Steroids can't bring out things that you don't have in you.
Yeah.
And if you look at baseball, you know how they talk about the logo and all that, Jerry West. Hell, if you look at the Major League Baseball logo could easily be Barry Bonds.
Yeah. Man, that's the type of conversation that it gets people going a lot. And I think you have majority of the players that they are, you know what? A majority of the players will tell you Bonds deserves to be a Hall of Famer. Pete needs to be in the Hall of Fame. Roger Clemens, another guy. I mean, there's so many guys that aren't in the Hall of Fame that should be.
Right. I'm glad you brought Roger up. That's another one, man. I mean, come on. Roger was throwing that ball, man. Steroids, no steroids. If they don't believe it, or they can go back to the Texas Longhorns and pull up film. Yeah. Roger Clemens is a Hall of Fame baseball player.
Yeah, definitely, man. There's a lot of guys in the Hall of Fame. JC says the MLB won't do that to Ohtani, not today. Man, they have to. They have to. I don't care what anybody says. You've got to make a statement because you
can't let this just blow over, because if you do, man, it won't be good for the future of baseball.
It won't be. And that's the thing. Then you're allowing other players to make that same mistake. And then what are you going to do when it happens again? You're going to let that person go. But then
if you don't put your foot down with Shohei, you can't do it with anyone else.
But then what is it? Is it banishment from the game? Is it a year?
As they uncover more and more information, if the information leads to he was involved in this, I mean, you have to take whatever steps that you would take with any other player. You can't have favoritism in situations like this. If a guy is tarnishing the game, no player is bigger than the game. Mm-hmm. And we found that out in the Black Sox scandal, all of this. No one player is bigger than the game of baseball. I don't care who it is. So if he's doing illegal things, he needs to be dealt with just like anyone else would.
100%, man. 100%. Derek Irvin bringing the factual truth just like we have been about Shohei Ohtani. If it comes out that he is wrong and he did bet, you know what? Sorry, Shohei. Great player. Did things that Babe Ruth probably hadn't been able to accomplish. I mean, him and Babe Ruth, the only two guys that pitcher and, hitting home runs left and right. But the brilliant career of Shohei Ohtani.
Really, why though? Why my whole thing? Why? I mean, damn, they gave you got all this money. You have generational wealth. Your great grandkids and their great grandkids are going to be secure. And so I'm hoping that this doesn't end up being a bad thing. And maybe the translator had something. It was his fault and his fault only. But to be honest with you, I don't have that feeling.
Yeah, it's, you know what? I don't think it's going to get covered up somehow. It's going to get covered up to where he didn't do anything wrong. Baseball's going to sweep it under the rug. And then we're going to have conspiracy theories here and that. So we'll see what happens. We will see what happens. But nonetheless, man, it is the Friday edition of Sweep the League. Derek, you've got a coaching to go to tonight. I've got to get to somewhere too. It's 5 o'clock here. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. We're going to be back on Monday after we're going to talk more NCAA because it's NCAA weekend, obviously. We'll have more teams to talk about on Monday. This is Sweep the League. But for Derek Irvin, Rudy Campos Jr., we got robbed of these guys, the Indiana State Sycamores. But hopefully next year we'll be able to see Robbie Avila here. But for Derek Irvin, it's Rudy Campos Jr. Until we sweep the league again Monday, we'll see you guys soon.
Have a great day, Rudy. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. #1 show in town. Make sure you tell a friend.
Awesome. Yes, sir.